Welcome to Health, Wellbeing and Lifestyle, where experts in the field inform, educate and inspire the community to be healthier, more balanced and live the lifestyle they love. Our first guest today, Michelle Wolf, is a naturopath, author and lecturer, and the topic we'll be discussing is constipation and other digestive health issues. Welcome, Michelle.
Thank you, Megan.
So, Michelle, constipation is a very common problem. Could you describe the cause of constipation?
Yeah, sure. There are several causes which are lifestyle causes because of the modern day lifestyle. The number one cause is a lack of water. So if you are somebody that has a very active lifestyle and you perspire a lot or you go in saunas, you're going to need more water than someone else. But the amount of water you need is also based on your body weight. It's also based on how much salt you have in your diet as well. But on average, if you times your body weight in kilograms by 33, you'll get the amount of mils of water that you should have. And best to have that water warm rather than cold. It hydrates better. So that would be the number one. The second would be lack of fibre in the diet. So a lot of us have junk food, more white products in the diet, more refined food, white rice rather than brown rice, and so on. So increasing your fibre through whole foods, so that would be more green leafy vegetables, whole grains like brown rice, quinoa, buckwheat. If you're someone that tolerates wheat, brown bread rather than white bread. And if there's still constipation, you can have fibres that are even more effective than that. So for example, 1 tablespoon of chia seeds a day and or a teaspoon of ground flax seeds or LSA a day. And the highest fibre out of any fruit is actually figs. And figs also contain a lot of calcium. So 1 to 2 figs a day can correct the problem. A breakfast that I would commonly prescribe is oat bran, which is very fibrous, mixed with hot water with some figs and some chia seeds and some LSA, and that's a really, really good fibre to get the bowel moving. If it's not resolved by that, then look at exercise. So we've become very sedentary in our lifestyle compared to how much we're supposed to move, and the body needs to move in order for the bowel to move. If you haven't got a certain period of time for normal exercise, then you can invest in like a small trampoline or a lymphosizer, it's often called. Bounce up and down while you're watching television. That's really good exercise for the gut. And the other thing I would say is that we're actually not designed to sit on the toilets in the position that we sit in. So in countries like Asia and in France, a lot of the toilets are holes in the ground, and the bottom part of your bowel opens right up when you're squatting. So there are several companies that have squatting stools that go around toilets that can make a considerable difference to constipation and easy passage from the bowel. After that, the next most important thing would be probiotics. So probiotics are often known as bifidus and lactobacillus as the main ones, but there are over 700 recorded species now. And they come from foods like plain yogurt. There's a Balkan drink called kefir, which has huge amounts of probiotics. That's readily available in health food shops, or you can make it yourself. And having foods like sauerkraut, so fermented cabbage as an example, small amounts with the meals. If you've addressed all of those and there's still constipation, then have a look at your stress levels. So that can have a big impact on the bowel with the mind-gut connection. So if you're holding on to emotions, often the bowel can hold on and you can be constipated. If you've got a lot of worry that's going over a period of time, that can often hold on the bowel. So there are specific lifestyle techniques that you can do to release that stress. If it's more complicated, you might want to see a professional counsellor or psychotherapist to help release that. And I would use specific herbs for the gut-brain connection and to relax the gut and calm the mind. So stress has quite a big impact, and quite a big impact. There can be more serious illnesses like hypothyroid that can cause.
What problems does constipation cause to the body?
So it can cause a lot of very uncomfortable symptoms. Bloating is a big one, which can be really uncomfortable for people. Sometimes it causes excessive gas. It causes a sluggishness, particularly in the brain, from the endotoxins going around in the body and the body just not being cleared, and the pressure on the body. If you're very constipated, it also causes a lot of pressure on the heart, and it can make you feel quite unhappy and quite down if it goes on, both from the uncomfortable feeling and the toxins not being passed. So you've got an unhealthy fermentation that goes on in the gut. So, you know, every 24 to 48 hours, the food should be moving out of the gut. It's like a rubbish bin that needs to be moved out, not causing recirculating toxins and mind problems. It can also cause problems with sleep. So some people wake up in the night because their gut is uncomfortable. With some people, it can cause swollen glands because the fluids are just not moving through the body. And you'd be more prone to, like if you're somebody that suffers with eczema, for example, it will be worse when you're constipated because the toxins are not free flowing out of the body.
Do you have any tips for our viewers for some healthy eating?
Yeah, so there's lots of tips for healthy eating as far as constipation goes. So having enough fibre is very important. So always have your whole grains, so brown rice instead of white rice. Every grain you have a whole grain. Green leafy vegetables. Your 1 tablespoon of chia seeds a day can be amazing. A teaspoon of ground flax seeds a day. 1 to 2 figs a day. All these things move the bowel. And then have something in the diet that's got some culture in it that helps those good probiotics and those good prebiotics. So plain yogurt or kefir, which is actually a Balkan drink that has many times more good flora and fauna than plain yogurt. That's readily available from a health food shop, and it's spelt Kefir. And avoiding white foods and avoiding junk foods, avoiding fizzy drinks and drinks with colourings in, that all will help the gut and will help constipation.
Fantastic information, Michelle. If you'd like to know more about constipation and other digestive issues, and Michelle Wolfe, please go to her webpage on our website, healthwellbeingandlifestyle.com.au. And after the break, we have another interesting guest with another interesting topic. Stay tuned. After the break, urban food specialist Mark Noyce is talking about innovative systems that make gardening easier. Welcome back. Our second guest today is urban food specialist Mark Noyce, and the topic we'll be discussing is innovative systems that make gardening easier. Welcome, Mark.
Hi Megan, thank you very much for having me.
Gardening's come a long way. What are some of the latest trends?
Well, let's look at where gardening came from. Where we grew plants in broad acre farming, which we still do. We've been doing that for thousands of years, and it's got us to where we are today, which is fantastic. But most of our population lives in urban cities. We live near the coast, and we congregate in an urban jungle, basically. And we don't have access to those same broad acre farms. We're actually building over our traditional food bowls as fast as humanly possible. So here in Melbourne, for example, our food comes more than 100 kilometres from where we're sitting right now, every day of the week. So we've got to bring in food now from a long distance, and in some cases, some of our food travels thousands of kilometres to get to it. We call that food miles. What we're trying to do is turn food miles into food metres by growing our own food in our backyard or on our balcony. So food has come a long way in terms of how we grow. There are lots of different ways to grow food, and some of the challenges are, how do we do that in an urban environment?
Mark, you've talked about the wicking garden beds a little bit. Can you tell us a little bit more about those?
So a wicking garden bed is not just like a garden bed in your backyard or a pot, for example. In your backyard, you might have a raised garden bed. It might just be at soil level where you grow some food. You put water on there, and quite often that water just goes straight through the garden bed, past the roots, and you're actually watering next door neighbour's trees instead. You put your nutrients on there. You buy some nutrients from the hardware store or the supermarket, and you pour those nutrients on, and they again go straight past your plants, your seedlings, and make your next door neighbour's trees look really fantastic. Gets into the groundwater and it's gone. In a pot, for example, where you pour water on there, it just goes down the sides and you think you've watered your pot, but if you actually break that apart, you'll find that it's really dry. And because when potting mix dries out, it doesn't attract water anymore. So what we want to do is we want to try to hold that water in the pot. So self-watering pots are just a really fantastic way of having a water reservoir in the bottom of the pot and allowing that water to rise up through the potting mix as the plant needs it 24/7. And we call that a wicking garden bed, where if you've ever had a dishcloth in water, you might notice that it rises up out of the water as it travels up the dishcloth. That's called capillary action. It's called wicking, and it's how water can travel up from a water reservoir up through the potting mix and then be available to the plant or the seedlings or whatever you're growing in there whenever that plant needs it. And it just does it naturally. So as it's being drawn up from the bottom through capillary action, a plant reaches down with its roots and sucks it up through suction. So when suction meets wicking, you've got a very happy plant. So a wicking garden bed is a containerised, sealed system that is perched above the water in the soil, so that we're holding that where the plants are for later. Because when it rains, we get a lot of excess rain in our urban environments, and a wicking garden bed captures that in its space for later reuse. So it's very climate adaptive. We can get through a lot of heat waves, and in some cases we can get our plants to survive for weeks at a time in the one containerised system. Let's look at a wicking garden bed. Its elements are: there's a sealed container, there's a water reservoir in the base, which is generally rock, then there's a geotextile layer to separate the rock and the water from the potting mix, then we put our potting mix on top, and then we plant in that, and the water wicks up through capillary action into the potting mix to allow the plants to grow. That's how a wicking garden bed works, or a self-watering pot plant works. There are some advances now where these wicking garden beds have a water reservoir with cones and an air gap between the water and the potting mix, so that we can have free draining and wicking at the same time. And that prevents root rot. You don't want root rot in a container because it goes pretty smelly actually. So by getting a little bit of oxygen, you allow the water to move up through the potting mix, you allow the potting mix to breathe, and I like oxygen and so do plants. So they like to breathe too. Allowing them to breathe gets it much healthier. Allowing the plants to breathe lets them grow more optimally. And so you're going to get the best out of your garden bed if you've got a wicking garden bed that can breathe.
That's fantastic information, Mark. So Mark, what's some advice for our audience in creating their own urban garden bed?
Megan, setting up your own urban garden is actually quite easy. With a wicking garden bed, for example, you can avoid losing all your water, you can avoid having roots come into it from your next door neighbour's trees. You can actually make it very ergonomic by getting it up off the ground and having that raised garden bed so that you're not bending and hurting your back when you're watering or tending to your garden. You can set up an urban farm really quickly these days by having a connectable modular garden bed system that takes the hard work out of gardening. Imagine coming home on a hot day and then you see your garden bed just wilting and dying because you haven't been there to water it. Well, a weekend garden bed solves that. A weekend garden bed gives the plants exactly what it needs 24/7. So certain types of plants can access water all the time versus others that don't like a lot of water can just take what they need, and just more comes up naturally through a weekend garden bed.
Wow, that's fantastic information there, Mark. Thank you. If you'd like to know more about Mark and the innovative systems that make gardening easier, go to his webpage on our website, healthwellbeingandlifestyle.com.au. And after the break, we'll have another interesting guest and another interesting topic.
Stay tuned. After the break, animal communicator and therapist Carolyn Pope
is talking about
digital technology and animal therapy. Hello and welcome back. Today in the studio we have Carolyn Pope, an animal communicator and therapist, and today's topic is digital technology and animal health. Hello Carolyn and welcome.
Thank you, it's good to be back.
Can you please explain to us how today's digital technology helps with animal health?
Hugely. I use a software program that maps over 150 points on the body field. So you can call it the body field, you can call it the aura, energy field. People have been used to that concept for quite a while. But in this case, Peter Fraser mapped the body field, and I'm able to scan an animal and know exactly what areas of the body field need correction. And of course, no therapist is 100% on their game every day. So it backs me up really nicely. Think of it like cheat notes on the computer game. I can see exactly what's going on, if I'm missing something, extra areas for me to concentrate on, those sorts of things. It's absolutely invaluable, and I now scan every animal I work with.
And how do you apply this technology?
I've got a little handheld bioenergetic device, and it emits frequencies. When you get to quantum, everything is frequency. So if something's not working properly, it's simply resonating at the wrong frequency. So this will then unblock that particular frequency and the corresponding meridian. So for example, if I'm treating a lumbar spine, it'll be the frequency of lumbar spine plus the lung meridian and the bladder meridian. If I'm working on the thoracic spine, it will be the bladder meridian and the gallbladder meridian. It will be unblocking as well as that particular frequency. And of course, that's why the acupuncturists used to put needles in. When you unblock the energy and get the energy flowing, that's good health and less pain. It's absolutely fascinating. And once I've scanned an animal, which takes 3 seconds, so it's great for cats, I can work on an animal without actually touching it, just using this handheld device. And particularly with cats or an animal that's really traumatized, when we had the bushfires, we were able to do a lot and help a lot. And for wildlife, birds, these sorts of things, it's just amazing technology, and it really helps in a non-invasive way. And the less stress the animal is and the less pain the animal's in, obviously the quicker they're going to heal. I started with one of my own cats. It's always your own animals you do first. She was having pain-killing injections every second day. You couldn't pick her up. And we pretty much thought it was the end of the road, scanned her, and within an hour, she hadn't been able to use the litter. She was only able to defecate every 3rd or 4th day. It was just a disaster. And because she was so sore, within an hour, she'd used the litter. She was 100% until the day we euthanized her. She never needed another painkiller. That got my attention instantaneously. And then later down the track, one of my own animals, my Anatolian, for those that don't know, they're about 60, 65 kilo. They're a livestock guardian. He was 4. We now know he had a brain tumour. We didn't at the time, but he'd become really dangerous to the point that I'd actually separated the cats out of the room because I was so worried he was going to kill them. And his euthanasia had been scheduled the next day. I picked up my little handheld device because desperate people do desperate things. There were 5 brain settings on it. I used it. He lay down, he went to sleep, which he hadn't been able to do, got up and started to play for the first time in 6 months. Right, okay, cancelled the euthanasia. At first it was every second day. I used the machine, he was fine. Ultimately, as the disease progressed, it got down to every 3 hours, day and night. and that gave me nearly 4 months that I hadn't realised how many favours I could pull both nationally and internationally. But there are some things you can't fix, and a brain tumour is one of them. But it gave me 4 months of quality for both of us before we had to make that decision. And that was just huge. He was safe around me. He was pain-free. Couldn't ask for more. You can't save everything, but you can give them quality while you have them.
And does it cover all sorts of ailments?
Absolutely. It maps the brain, with people, the German new medicine of the brain, the emotions, it does the meridians, how much energy the body is or isn't pulling in. It maps the immune system. It's fascinating stuff.
And what advice can you give our animal lovers out there in terms of the health of their animals?
When you see something or you think they're not quite right, that's when you want to treat something. You don't want to wait. You think of an animal, oh, they're a bit flat and it's been more than 24 hours. That's when you want to get onto it, not waiting till the dog actually growls at the child or whatever because they've been in pain for 2 weeks. Or if they miss more than one meal. Again, why? Being proactive rather than reactive makes a huge, huge difference in the quality and also how quickly. The quicker you pick up something, the quicker the animal's going to heal. Same with us. So getting on top of it early rather than dragging it out, oh, but I can't get there for 3 weeks or whatever, makes such a difference to the quality of the animal's life.
Oh, thank you so much. That's great advice. If you want to learn more about Carolyn Pope and digital technology for animal health, go to her webpage on our website, healthwellbeingandlifestyle.com.au. That is our show for today. Please join us next week for some more great guests and fascinating topics.
If you'd like to know more about our show, please like us on Facebook, follow us on Instagram, and subscribe to our YouTube channel.